What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we've got developer diary number 3 for F1 2018, and this is all related to the handling and physics of the game. And this is brought to us by David Greco, the lead handling designer of F1 or the F1 games. And it's a really interesting piece that they've done. I was absolutely fascinated by it. So it's a longer video, but he gets really into the nitty-gritty of F1 2018 and the handling improvements that they've made since the last game. It really is amazing. So, without further ado, let's get into it, and I'll see you guys at the end.
I'm David Greco, Senior Car Handling Designer of F1 2018. I started my racing career in real racing back in 1999, karting in Brazil, where my dad bought me the first go-kart, and then I went up to Formula Renault in North America, and then I also did some races in Italy, the last one in 2013 with a car I just tested a few weeks ago, and then from there I switched into sim racing. The tests we did in Italy, we actually tested 2 single-seater, and it was very interesting to see the difference between 2. One was 2008 spec and the other one was this year spec, so about 10 years difference, and the progress and the downforce difference was really amazing to see. We had a little bit of understeer on power, so I managed to give them some feedback to improve the car. In about 20 years of experience, I managed also to do many cool things, like being in Ferrari, testing cars at Fiorano, and in Vegas doing a major esport competition, and all this really adds to what I do at work. I joined Codemasters in 2014. It was April 7th to be exact, and my job was to step by step go more towards simulation, and I really believe that every year we go always more and more towards the simulation. F1 2017, I believe, has been a very good step up from 2016, and the 2016 was a very beautiful step up from 2015. But I believe 2018 is a massive step up because we introduced so many more simulation aspects that I believe will be very well received by all the players. To choose which one is the most important, most advanced, it's quite hard, but I would say probably the system how we simulate the tire temperature. In F1 2018, it will be the first time in an F1 game that the tire temperature not only will be coming from tire surface, but it will also have tire carcass temperature, and that together with the tire surface temperature and the heat coming from the brake means that the player will have to carefully take care of the tire, not only corner by corner, but they have to think about maybe they can push for a few laps, and then they have to cool down the tires to be able to push again. On some of the tracks, they will be very difficult to get the temperature. So all this becomes much more tactical for the player. Now the drivers have 3 different ways to approach a race. The first one will be all attack, so you go very fast the first laps. But obviously the side effect is that mid to end of the race you will suffer from tire overheating. The other one is to be consistent, be as nice as possible but push, so that you can keep the tires on very good temperature range for the entire stint. And the third possibility is that they really nurse their tire at the beginning and then they are very fast before they go and pit. The undercut or even the overcut, depending on the tracks, could be not easier but more effective, depending on the state of the tires at the moment you want to push. We managed to improve the simulation for the suspension and the chassis. We now run at 1000 Hz, which is very fast and very detailed. And now you feel totally connected to the car, what's happening to the chassis, to the suspension, and to the tire. The shift of the weights are much more noticeable. And also the curbs and bumps now can actually upset the car, and the player has to think, is it okay to attack that curb, or is it the curb too tall? The force feedback, you feel not only the tire, but you feel the whole steering column and the dampening that is around the steering column, because the suspension has improved and the chassis and everything around has improved. Therefore, if you go on a curb and you have a double bounce or 3 bounce, you actually feel the 3 bounces on the wheel, something that before we wouldn't be able to feel. In F1 2018, the player can actually change the ERS, which is the energy recovery system. While racing, the ERS can be deployed using the MFD, the multifunction display that we introduced a few years ago. Just like changing the fuel mixture, you can actually change the deployment mode of the ERS. On the OSD and on the steering wheel, you can actually see the level of the energy that you have by a bar and also a number that tells you how much battery you have. And then you have the deployment bar, so how much you are deploying and how much you can deploy per lap. And harvesting, the same thing as deployment, but how much you are harvesting and how much you can harvest per lap. It will introduce a key element of tactic to the whole game, because you might end up in a situation where you have to defend, or maybe somebody in front of you makes a mistake and it's your time to overtake, or you want to do an overcut, but you were using too much energy and you don't have enough energy to do those 2-3 laps before you go into the pits. And therefore all this becomes much more tactical for the player, and it will give us very, very interesting races. Players will be able to learn how to effectively use ERS through an ERS practice program. At the end of last year, we received a visit from a foam engineer, and I was able to learn many things, and he was able to actually share some key values of physics and handling of the car. So this year, we will be able to use real data, real downforce levels, drag levels. We managed to make some changes to the way the engine works. So now we have proper engine values for the power and torque. And also I have to be thankful to him, because the idea of all the bulk and the carcass temperature actually came from him. And we actually together developed the best way that would be introduced in our game. I was able to compare to what I had done the previous years, and I was quite surprised that I was very close on downforce levels already, not too close in the drag levels and the engine power. Actually, it's quite amazing how much power they actually produce and how much drag they also have, these new cars. Looking back in F1 2015, I am very happy where we got to, and I do have some ideas to further improve for 2019, because obviously we never stop, but we are very close to really be happy with the handling, the way the car feels, the force feedback, how it works, and this year we're very close to what I wanted from a simulator. In over 20 years of career between sim racing and real motorsport, I always came across questions like one title is more simulator than another title because it's very difficult to drive. With my real motorsport experience, I can say that real racing cars are made to have a lot of grip. To me, a simulator is not how easy it is to drive, how easy to make it spin. To me, a simulation is how many real life physical components we simulate. And especially this year, there are not many features that I can think of that we don't simulate. Just call it a game, to me, is not enough anymore.
Just calling it a game is not enough anymore. That is a pretty big statement from someone of David Greco's stature, I would say. Legendary status in the sim racing community. This guy needs no introduction. He's one of the best racers on the planet. Like, I met him in 2016 for the pre-alpha testing of the 2016 game, and I had never seen someone drive so well before, previous to like Harry Jacks, Noble 2909. The way that he can drive a car around a circuit. I watched him around Silverstone, for example, and it was amazing how bloody fast he was. He's done things like Vegas E-Race. He's done real life motorsport before, so this guy's got proven talent. And like you said, he joined Codemasters back in 2014, I think it was. Fully got stuck into the handling model for 2015 onwards. And if you guys have been following the franchise a while, you'll know that there was a huge handling overhaul for next gen consoles. And since then, that's been the platform that he's been building on over the last few years. Him and his team, of course. So yeah. First off, I just want to say, having driven 2018, and you'll see some gameplay from my channel very, very soon, is despite no real regulation change, this is the biggest change in handling we have seen since like 2016 to 2017, but that had a big regulation change. So it's crazy how much the game has changed handling-wise from 2017 to 2018. It's so much different. It's so much more advanced now. One of the big things that David talked about was the tires, and that's probably going to be the biggest hurdle for anyone trying to drive competitively or race at a high level in career mode, for example. You've really got to look after the tires this year, and I've found from experience that like at some tracks where traction is traction limiting, like Singapore, Monaco, those tracks are going to be really, really difficult to look after your rear tires. Sure, you can have the out-and-out pace over one lap, but we're getting to a stage now in qualifying where you can only do one lap. Like, your tires will melt on the second lap, like at Singapore, for example. So whether it be through setup or just driving style or a bit of both, you really need to look after your tires, and I can't stress this enough. It's so important to your pace, and I'm very much looking forward to getting stuck into it for the full game. So, other things he was talking about, the ERS deployment. You can now do that manually yourself, or you can have that as an assist and let the game take care of that for you. It's literally a full-time job. Like, how much stuff you need to manage in F1 2018, especially the ERS, I feel like it's probably more important than the engine fuel mix now. For the most part, we're going to be running in rich or at least standard and just burning off a lot of fuel. But the thing will be changing in between corners and straights will be the ERS deployment. So you've got 5 modes. You've got none, low, medium, high, overtake, and then hot lap. And I don't know the exact amount of benefit you'll get from like no harvest or no deployment to full deployment. But I want to say it's like a second and a half, maybe to 2 seconds, depending on the track. But when you go from full deployment to no deployment, on the straight at Monza, for example, you literally feel the car kind of lose momentum. It's that noticeable. So making sure you look after your battery, especially in a race scenario, it's going to be absolutely key to your pace. And it's going to be very, very difficult to string together consistent laps in the race now. You've got your tyres to look after now, tyre temperatures, and also the ERS. So there's a lot of variables at play that's going to aid in overtaking when it comes to this year's game. And I can't bloody wait. In terms of other features, they did touch upon it once again, but the 1000 Hz suspension working range, just pretty cool. You certainly feel it whenever you go over curbs. There's much more of a harsh vibration and you'll feel in your wheel. It comes down to trial and error, I would say, as well, when it comes to attacking certain curbs now. So, especially at high speed, it's highly recommended that you don't touch curbs, otherwise you could see a sudden loss of traction or a loss of a tire, for example. So that's something you'll have to watch out for and possibly play around with your driving style and also your setup to make sure you can use certain curbs to aid in getting some of the lap time. Other things which he didn't really touch upon but have changed as well is the way the car setups work. For example, a lot of the competitive races on 2017 will know this. They use 11 ballast and really low downforce on the front and high downforce on the rear to counteract the weight balance. And it made for a very, very overpowered setup in a straight line and also fairly good through the corners as well. You can't do that anymore. You can't run 11 ballast. So you'll have to make some changes to your setup. You can still do it to a degree, but it's nowhere near as overpowered as what it was. But I'm quite interested to see what's going to happen with setups this year as well, with the handling changing quite a bit. I'd imagine there are quite a few things to find out over the next coming months to see what the sweet spot is in terms of getting the outright most out of your car setup. So that's pretty much it for the handling and physics. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. Really good insight from David Greco. I'm really glad they've got him on board for this developer diary, and really glad he's part of Codemasters. The amount of improvement we've seen in the handling side of the game since 2015, or since 2014, has been absolutely remarkable, and I look forward to seeing how it progresses over the next coming years. But guys, that's been it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more F1 2018 content. I will have some gameplay out very soon. I don't know when I can release that, but as soon as I know, you guys will know. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll tell you exactly when that gameplay is coming. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.